WrestleMania 34 was a complete fundamental failure. Top to bottom, this show disappointed in almost every way possible. Let's run down the card and I'll share my opinions. All those in favour of reviewing the pre-show? That's what I thought. The show kicked off with a pretty decent match between The Miz, Finn Balor and Seth Rollins for the Intercontinental Championship. The stage was absolutely sensational. Seth Rollins looked like a total badass sporting blue contact lenses, and The Miz's attire was such a well done tongue-in-cheek attempt at a cool outfit that I literally cried with laughter after I'd seen it. Finn Balor was given the plainest attire but carried the match, which effectively presented him as a dominant strategist and reliable workhorse. Apart from this, there really wasn't anything beyond what meets the eye in terms of storytelling. People just hit their patented moves. Cue plenty of sling blades, DDTs and super kicks. There weren't especially any memorable spots, apart from the finish in which Finn Balor hit The Miz with a coup de grace, just for Seth Rollins to retort with a finish of his own on the former Prince Devitt, then drill The Miz with a curb stomp to make Grand Slam Rollins a reality after 5.5 years on the main roster. Next, Charlotte fought Asuka in what should have been an instant classic, but deflatingly underdelivered. I'd wanted a 20-minute clash of egos and styles in which a deadly combatant set to dethrone the top dog of the division took on an established powerhouse set on defending the throne. What we actually received was a match that would probably be above average by TV standards. I can remember nothing about this match apart from an admittedly brilliant counter of a moonsault from Charlotte that swiftly transitioned into a triangle choke. The match didn't have very much heat because of its indifferent build, and then in possibly the most stupid booking decision of the past decade, Asuka tapped to the Queen's figure 8 submission, when my friends and I saw not only that the Empress of Tomorrow's undefeated streak was over, but that her first loss was by submission. It evoked genuine rage from us. One of the main booking issues with Asuka upon her call-up was her overexposure, creating the impression that she was just like any other woman on the roster. But her undefeated streak was what separated her from the rest. But now, before she even won a championship for seemingly no other reason than #WrestleMania moment trademark, she tapped out clean as a whistle. A cheap pop and making a moment was favoured over effective storytelling and character development, as Asuka's legendary undefeated streak was broken a full year or two before it should have even been as much as considered. The former Kana wrapped up the segment by cutting a promo in which she told Charlotte that she was ready for Asuka. By this point, I was a bit annoyed, and what better way to calm me down than for any of the heat from Asuka and Charlotte's post-match angle to be vacuumed up by Big Match John valiantly dashing up the ramp with an official by his side and determination in his face before Miss Tit Slap had even had a chance to get backstage yet. Next up was the Fatal 4-Way for the United States Championship. The chance to make an actual WrestleMania moment that people cared about was present and quite frankly inevitable, as the incredibly over Rusev Day act had already launched both the Bulgarian Brute and the Mozart of Mayhem into superstardom in SmackDown's upper mid-card division. The match was below average, and with the ever-growing stagnancy of Randy Orton's character weighing down the title, WWE went with an awesome feel-good moment in which Rusev finally, just kidding, Jinder won the title to no reaction and pinned Rusev in the process. Happy Rusev Day, you wankers. In the best match of the night, Ronda Rousey and Kurt Angle took on a MILF and a lad with a big nose. Funnily enough, in some instances, quantity does equal quality, and this was not only the best but also the longest match on the show, clocking in at a whopping 20 minutes and 38 seconds. The first section of the match told the story of Triple H having to keep Kurt Angle away from the corner, so as to stop him from tagging in a desperate rowdy Ronda who wanted nothing more than to beat the piss out of a cheating Stephanie. Whilst not my favourite on-screen personality, Stephanie played her role brilliantly here, chipping in with cheeky assists for trips when the referee's back was turned, and selling fear and anguish perfectly when facing her comeuppance. Rousey was effortlessly compelling, constantly either trash-talking or slugging bodies around. This wasn't Flair vs Steamboat, but it was 20 minutes of celebrity-fueled fun, and one that showed us a Little Miss Quick Fists, for a chick, had a few tricks, even without a dick. Potentially one of the best matches of this year's WrestleMania, clocked in at a measly 6 minutes with all the emphasis put on the Bludgeon Brothers' dominant nature in the Bludgeon Brothers versus the Usos versus the New Day. I felt they had built enough on TV already, and perhaps giving this match a tornado tag or better yet TLC stipulation in which Big E's, Big D's and the Oosie Juicies could gang up on the brothers while keeping them at bay just for them to scoop the victory anyway would have been far more entertaining. Nothing to note here, just a big disappointment. Speaking of big disappointments, this next segment was an absolute car crash. Big Boy Big John Ladman came from behind the curtain and entered the ring, awaiting the arrival of his opponent. After some cheap stalling, Cena began to leave the ring when the lights went out and one iconic sound effect played dramatically: the strumming of a guitar. Elias came down to face off with Cena and got absolutely obliterated. Cena walked up the ramp again but was interrupted by the drop in the lights and an iconic sound effect playing dramatically: the Undertaker's signature gong. Taker's hat, jacket and gloves appeared under a spotlight in the ring and were then engulfed by flames. With the ring then being met by a strike of lightning, this actually made for some pretty awesome imagery. Non-biker Undertaker emerged from the smoke at the top of the ramp, came down to the ring and defeated John Cena in 3 fucking minutes. Are you kidding me, WWE? The match was given a very intriguing build, with a lingering ambiguity as to how the story would progress, but the entire thing led to another example of WWE booking a moment over a match in an underwhelming squash. The initial pop was ruined by the constant teasing as it became far too obvious that Spooky Doo was coming out sooner or later, and the inclusion of Elias felt purposeless and far too comedic for a surprise return of the dead man. Keeping up the theme of extreme disappointment? Yes! I am, and it's a here comes the money-making KO. This amount of puns is insane. Why am I alive? Daniel Bryan came out before Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and was ruthlessly attacked, prompting about 10 minutes of in-ring action that was 50% Shane McMahon. Danielson eventually did get in the ring and got no further than hitting his big moves for cheap pops, sealing the victory with the LeBell Lock. I didn't watch this show live, and I'm man enough to say that I didn't watch Alexa Bliss vs Nia Jax, and I never will. I'm fine with Nia winning. After all, Alexa Bliss's title reign has gotten painfully boring, but there's nothing really much of note to report here. The show was nearing its final hour now, thank Christ, and it was time for the dream match. The rematch of the New Japan Classic AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura, and it fucking sucked. I didn't expect it to top their former contest, but I mean, come on! After Nakamura's, to be honest, actually pretty awesome entrance, I was greeted with 20 minutes of sheer downtime. The match was given 20 minutes, however it still managed to drag, moving at pedestrian pace and featuring moves being hit with no character or taste. It was dry, lumbering and uneventful. There were no memorable sequences, no counters, no epic moments of storytelling or anything that required the slightest bit of effort. Okay, tell a lie, there was one cool reversal where Phenomenal Man countered the Kinshasa into a Styles clash, but that was it. Nakamura was pinned after one finisher, and both Royal Rumble winners were defeated clean at the show of shows. The King of Strong Style actually turned heel rather shockingly after his loss, but I didn't have enough enthusiasm to care. At this point I was so utterly drained that I thought there was no way this show could get any worse, and I was wrong. The Bar battled Braun Strowman and a partner of his choosing in one of my most anticipated matches of the night, not even for the match but for the potential return we may have been about to witness. Rumours suggested Dean Ambrose, Rey Mysterio, James Ellsworth, or my personal pick, not favourite, one that I thought was going to happen, Bobby Lashley. Was it any of them? No. Braun went into the crowd and kidnapped a 10-year-old child as his tag team partner. Braun and Nicholas won in convincing fashion as, yet again, a Wrestlemania moment was made over anything that would have resembled a description of sensible or compelling. This perhaps marks a second nail in the coffin for Braun Strowman's career path being set upon the past monster-turned-comedy character after the Brain Strowman angle on Raw the other week. The only thing to note here is that Nicholas now has his own page on ProFightDB, which is rather depressing. And finally, the main event. Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns Part 2, aka quite possibly the worst WrestleMania main event of all time. Lesnar dominated Roman, then some more. F5, dominated some more. F5, F5, dominated some more. Mini Roman comeback, dominated some more. F5, F5, busted Roman open hard way, which to be fair, looked awesome. Spear, F5, 1, 2, 3? In quite possibly the most shocking result to a wrestling match since I started watching wrestling again at WrestleMania 31, Brock Lesnar defeated Roman Reigns clean in the main event of WrestleMania 34 for the WWE Universal Championship. I was going insane. This was genuinely the most shocked I had felt in years. But this isn't a good thing. Not at all. Brock Lesnar's run as Universal Champion had run its course after dud matches with the likes of Samoa Joe, Braun Strowman, and Kane for some stupid reason. Roman has been set to be crowned as the next top guy for 3 years, and it was finally going to happen. We were going to get what Vince wanted, where Roman defeated Brock Lesnar clean and established himself as the face of the company. We were going to get a new chapter in the Roman Reigns story, but we didn't. He and Lesnar are still the same characters coming out of this match, and quite frankly, I was ready for Roman to win. It makes perfect sense for Roman to win here, as his entire 2017 was a redemption storyline of himself falling down the card after losses to the likes of Samoa Joe, Braun Strowman, and the Universal Championship match from SummerSlam, then working his way back up after toppling foes such as John Cena and The Miz. Quite frankly, I was prepared. Even those who didn't really want it, myself included, knew what was coming and were ready to just accept it. So the lingering question is, why? And the one that's gonna be more relevant to the future is, what now? Honestly, I have absolutely no idea. And not in a good way. I'm not confused because I'm compelled by the angle, I'm confused because nothing that took place in it made any sense. And now, we are stuck in an ambiguous limbo where the direction of both Roman Reigns and the Universal Championship are completely unclear, and I am not going to enjoy it. WrestleMania 34 was poorly booked, completely detached from the expectations of the IWC, hammer-fistedly structured, corporately driven, and massively disappointing for a card that looked so good on paper. I'm giving this event a 2 out of 10. I've been Eternal Fight, thank you very much for listening.